2020 at 6 p.m. at the Cottonwood Community Clubhouse. If we could please have our deputy clerk take the roll.
Councilmember Wilden. Here. Councilmember Henry. Here. Councilmember Hulse. Here. Councilmember Hargy. Here. Councilmember Naren. Here. Vice Mayor Matthews. Here. Mayor Linsky.
Here. Okay, please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next on the agenda is a brief summary of current events by the mayor, city council, and/or city manager. The public body does not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter brought up during the summary unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. Do we have any council members with anything to report?
I have one item, please. So I attended the Verde Valley Transportation Planning Organization quarterly meeting, and despite the pandemic, we do still have many road projects that are moving forward. We've heard some about Cottonwoods from our city manager, so I'm not going to take the time on Cottonwoods, but interestingly enough, our neighbor, the Yavapai Apache Nation, is thinking about and weighing the pros and cons of a twice daily transit service between the Verde Valley and Prescott. The Yavapai Apache Nation has asked for feedback from the neighboring communities, including Cottonwood, such as drop-off, pickup, and different logistics before they actually decide to move forward with the grant funding. I did put a message on my Facebook for asking for feedback about the proposed grant application. The nation needs to make a decision and apply for the funds by the end of August. I believe the deadline was the 24th of August. So if you have any feedback, you can feel free to reach out to me at thenry@CottonwoodAZ.gov or on my council Facebook page if you'd like to just weigh in on the benefits of that project. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any other council members? No? Okay. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, Council, a couple items. I wanted to talking about the bus and our transit system, all cat routes. So our regular buses have returned to normal schedule. So it's been several months since we've had all of our buses ready. All of our buses are now running. Our links, the connection between here and Sedona, is still running light, and we don't have that fully operational, but we're working with our partners in Sedona and other communities to make sure we're hitting the need correctly. Our cat routes are back up and running. PD held a Facebook fundraiser to raise money to support our victim assistance dog, Tilly. Our fundraising goal was $4,000 to cover the cost for vet bills, grooming, and food. All items that are not covered under the VOCA grant, we met our goal within a month. So less than a month, we got our $4,000. So thank you to the Cottonwood community and all of the Verde Valley for supporting our victims assistance dog, Tilly. Wanted to give a road diet update. If you've been in Old Town, you've noticed there's a lot of work going on the street. We've completed our pavement patching and all the pavement striping obliteration. Next Monday and Tuesday, we'll begin to install a fog coat, so parts of the street will be closed down. The work will be done at night to provide minimal disruption to traffic as possible. On Wednesday and Thursday of next week, the surveyor will be laying out the proposed striping, which will be installed on Monday through Wednesday of the following week, which is August 17th, 18th, and 19th. So a couple more weeks of that work to be done. On the North Main Street Sidewalk project, the contractor began work on Monday. They have removed a section of asphalt in front of the Hippie Emporium and are excavating for the curb and sidewalk installation. The first section of rolled curb may be installed as early as Thursday. Wanted to give a quick COVID update. We did have our second employee test positive, so we've really been fortunate so far as an organization. But the numbers in our community continue to be low. We had 6 inpatients at our hospital, so the numbers are in the right direction, holding steady, holding low. Things are going very well for us as far as COVID-19 is concerned. Wanted to also let the community know that our Cottonwood Airport Commission meeting will be tomorrow night here at the clubhouse beginning at 6. And then I'm going to pass out an announcement about the airport. We are starting a call for artists. We are going to put a
compass rose on our airport pavement. It's a directional painting so that the pilots can check their instruments, but it's not just an arrow, it's an art project. So we're calling all the Verde Valley artists who want to design something and then help get it painted on our pavement to put in a response. So we're excited that we're able to bring in the community to help beautify and fulfill a need. So it's a needed thing, but also it's going to be some artwork out there at our airport. So I'll pass that around to council and look for that out on Facebook and our webpage in the next week or so.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Okay, next we have a proclamation. This is proclaiming the month of August 2020 as Child Support Awareness Month. And I don't believe we have anyone here to accept this proclamation, but I'll go ahead and read it aloud. So whereas the City of Cottonwood joins the nation in recognizing August as Child Support Awareness Month and reaffirms its commitment to strengthening Arizona's families by providing child support services to improve the economic stability and well-being of children. And whereas the state of Arizona will always be committed advocates for our children whose safety and security remains top of mind. And whereas a child who receives emotional and financial support is more likely to feel safe and secure and is better equipped with the courage to be their very best in life. And whereas the Department of Economic Security Division of Child Support Services is robustly committed to putting Arizona's children first and to humbly serving Arizonans with excellence, respect, integrity, and kindness, as well as being an overall champion for economic growth and opportunity. And whereas the Division of Child Support Services is a strong advocate for shared parenting responsibilities because parents and children benefit when both parents are engaged with their child at every stage, regardless of marital status. And whereas strengthening individuals and families with an emphasis on fiscal responsibility promotes the safety and well-being of children, provides stability, improves the lives of children, and provides opportunities for families to be able to enhance their children's future. And whereas Child Support Awareness Month salutes diligent parents who spend time with their child and who make regular child support payments to safeguard their children's future. Now, therefore, I, Tim Alinsky, the mayor of the City of Cottonwood, do hereby proclaim the month of August 2020 as Child Support Awareness Month. All right. And then next on the agenda, we have a presentation. We have representatives from Arizona Department of Environmental Quality who will present information regarding the Water Quality Assurance Revolving Fund Program and specifically the Highway 260 and Main Street site. And are they joining us by Zoom?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
All right. This is fairly new to all of us here in the community clubhouse, so I hope that you all can see us and we can see you, and thanks for zooming in with us today. And the floor is yours. I'm not sure who I'm introducing here first. I see Ms. Malone and Mr. Nader. Are you both able to hear me? We can hear you, yeah.
Okay, sorry, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting us up to have a conversation with you about the 260 and Main Street website. We're going to quickly use a couple of slides to talk to you about. Let's say a little bit of technical difficulties. I can't seem to get off the first slide. Let's see. Let me try this again. Sorry, it was up, but I'm not able to share, or not able to move it. And now I'm not able to share the screen again. Is somebody able to send me another link to share my screen?
We'll work on that. Sorry, I wish I could help you, but I'm a little numb when it comes to Zoom, so I'm no help at all.
No. Are you able to see it in this mode? Because I don't think I'll be able to move it in another mode.
We can see your slideshow presentation, yes.
Okay. I will keep it in this mode. So again, sorry for the technical difficulties. So one thing, oh my gosh. Okay, there we go. So just a quick outline, what we're going to talk about, give you a quick overview of the work program, what actions have actually been taken on this site, some early response actions that have occurred, and then kind of what's happening and what's upcoming. So a little bit about, just quickly about the water program. So it's the Water Quality Assurance Revolving Fund, and it is what we like to call, the state Superfund. So the EPA, federal Superfund Sites, and this is the state kind of similar program to that. So this program manages sites that have both soil and groundwater contamination, and we use either state dollars or we use the money from the responsible parties who are responsible for releasing the contamination to begin with to kind of address these sites. The water program was actually established in 1986 as part of the Department of Health Services, and then when ADEQ was established in 1987, this program transferred over to ADEQ. This program is a little different than the federal Superfund program in that the federal, or what they call CERCLA or Superfund program, is what they call joint and several, which means if you have a responsible party, it doesn't matter how much you release, you're 100% responsible. And the federal government only has to really identify one person, and then that facility has to go out and sue all the others that might have contributed to that flow. The state program is a much fairer type program, and I think Arizona still is about only one of 3 states. We are a proportionate share program, which means if you contributed 10% to the groundwater contamination, then you're responsible for that 10%. You're not responsible for the full 100%. So again, we continue to have sites across the state. We currently have 35 sites on the registry. We've listed 7. In comparison to the federal program, there are 10 Superfund sites actually in the state of Arizona, with 1 being in Yavapai County in Dewey-Humboldt. One important component of the work program is the Community Advisory Board, which I know there is what we call a CAB for this site. And that is really critical for the agency to work with the community and help the community understand what's happening. And I think that CAB actually is a result of what ADEQ is presenting to you today. So that's just a little bit about the work program. So this particular site, we've been dealing with this site for a little while. We did find some PCE or tetrachloroethene in an RV park, and PCE really is a greaser a lot of times in dry cleaners, manufacturing businesses use it to clean parts, things like that. But PCE, like I said, predominantly is a volatile organic compound that we typically kind of see in dry cleaner operations. So we did notice some PCE in the RV park way back in 2005. At that point, we put folks on bottled water, and I believe at that point we also transitioned some folks over to a system for their drinking water. So a little bit more about the work program, just on the process and kind of where this site fits in. This is the overall work process where we start with a preliminary investigation, which was done, I believe, back in 2005, and either no further action where we just don't have any contamination above an aquifer water quality standard, or we continue to monitor. We have a number of those sites in Arizona that we just continue to monitor. If we have an issue and it scores through our process, it will be added to the work registry. And this site, again, we did the preliminary investigation, which again includes looking for the responsible party for this particular issue. We added to the WIC registry in 2016. We are nearing completion of the remedial investigation, and really the remedial investigation is to determine the extent and degree of contamination. So where did this chemical go? How far in the soil did it go? Where in the groundwater did it go? And as the slide indicates, we did a lot of soil gas surveys, indoor air, a lot of groundwater and surface water sampling. And through this, we found that we have two source areas, and I'll show you that on a map in just a minute. The next step that we're getting into is we did start into a feasibility study, and what the feasibility says is now that we kind of know where everything is, now we need to figure out what's the best method to clean it up. How do we put in a pump and treat system for the groundwater? Do we put in a soil vapor system for the material that's in the soil? So the feasibility study really just kind of takes a look now that we have the data that we need, how best can we address this site? And the one thing that's important to notice about this site is this is what we call an orphan site. So we don't have a responsible party for this site, and so the state will be picking up the costs to remediate this site. So this is just a site map and overview. Like I talked about, we have two different sources, one in the north area and one in the south area. And you can see our source area here in the red boxes. So it was easier to kind of split it. It's still one WRF registry site, but we split it into two different areas. So let's talk about the north area first. The source area is right up in here, which are monitoring wells. These are ADEQ monitoring wells that were installed. And the rest of these are private wells that we have gone out and we have sampled. And by the legend down here, green is non-detect. The yellow is less than 5 micrograms per liter, sorry. And then the red is what's over the aquifer water quality standards of 5 milligrams per liter, sorry. So as you can tell, we have sampled quite a bit of private wells in this area, and we do have groundwater contamination as well as soil contamination, in this area. Moving to the south area, here's the source area for the south. We have a monitoring well over that. This is what I should have mentioned on the previous. This is the direction of groundwater flow. So as you can tell, we've sampled quite a number of private wells in this area. And the good thing is that we have not a lot of non-detects. So one of the things is this area, according to my team, this area has a lot of limestone in it. And so it's a little bit more complicated to try to find, because in limestone you get some little fractures and contamination can migrate. So again, I think the team's done a really good job in trying to follow that plume and figure out where we go. But so in this area we've got 3 or 4 wells, 4 wells. They're above the aquifer water quality standards. So kind of what we've done, some early response actions that I've talked a little bit before. So when we typically find these areas and we have well owners that have contamination above the aquifer water quality standards, we typically put them on bottled water. And then we work to find a better solution, whether it's connecting them to the public water system, whether it's putting in a system like this system was put in actually at a private well. So as the slide indicates, we have 5 wellhead treatment systems, and 1 more is pending. So it really is about protecting drinking water. So here's just a little bit about the upcoming work. As I talked about, we're finishing up the remedial investigation report. That should be done in a matter of a couple of weeks. And again, that tells us kind of what we need to know about where it is, how deep it is, how far it traveled. And we continue to try to get access to some properties to talk about the feasibility study. So one area where if I could ask for your support is we always have to try to negotiate access to either well sampling, or if we need to put in a treatment system to address this. Sometimes we have some challenges with getting access. So where we could use your assistance is, if you have residents that express that concern, or you can help the agency try to obtain some access, so we would be able to, get a treatment system installed and work with not only the community advisory board, but other neighbors and yourself to determine what's best to address this contamination. And then, the feasibility study, all of this stuff is public comment. We go out, we get comments on these things, so we focus on water providers, definitely to get their input on what the agency plans to do. And again, we continue to try to gain access to certain properties so we can continue our work. So that's really a very basic overview of kind of what's happening in your area. We are, again, what I talked about, the Community Advisory Board, we're very excited that we have a cab up in this area. There are some sites that we don't have cabs for, so I really do appreciate the residents and folks, interest in this and helping the agency, spread the word of what we're doing. We do have a fact sheet associated with this site that is on our website, and I think the fact sheet was also mailed out to the cabinet members. I'm not quite sure when, but I know we did mail out a fact sheet to them. But again, it's all about transparency and making sure that you as the leaders of the town, understand what we're doing and how we can support you, and also how you can kind of support us to make sure that we can address this situation as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Malone. Does council have any questions for Ms. Malone? Okay, no questions from the council, but thank you for your presentation.
And we did hear your call for help with assistance, so we'll continue to collaborate with you on getting the word out and any other way we can assist with your efforts. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for all the time. If anything you need, we appreciate it. Have a good day.
Okay, very good. Thank you. You too.
I'll just make a quick comment.
Yes.
So I've been on the Citizen Advisory Board for this since its inception. So if anybody has any questions, I know that was kind of hard to understand. I've got all the information. I've been with it since the beginning, so it's kind of old hat. Feel free to reach out and ask questions. I'll fill you in. It's really geeky. It's not really dangerous. So.
All right, very good. Thank you. Ms. Weldon, did you have a question? No. Okay. All right, very good. So then we'll go ahead and move on to approval of minutes of the regular meeting of July 7th and 21, 2020. And I would move to approve those minutes.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Nairn seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, minutes are approved. And we move on then to unfinished business. We have just 2 items tonight under unfinished business. The first is interview of applicants for the Airport Commission.
I have that problem too.
Where are my glasses? Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Amanda Wilbur. I am the HR Director here with the city. The city currently has 2 available seats on its Airport Commission due to 2 expiring terms. The openings were advertised and resulted in 8 applications received. The applications were reviewed through the blind review process already, and some of the applicants were interviewed at the council meeting 2 weeks ago. Tonight we have 3 out of the 8 remaining applicants to be interviewed. 1 applicant has withdrawn their application, so that's why we only have 3 instead of 4 this evening. I reviewed the criteria of the seats with the council last meeting as well, but if you would like a refresher, I'm more than happy to go through that as well. Otherwise, the 3 applicants should be here tonight for your interview.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have 3 applicants with us this evening, and I'll go ahead and call them up alphabetically, and which gives Tina Andres the unfortunate role of being first. Good evening, how are you?
Good, thank you.
The good news is they're really simple questions.
Thanks.
Just want to say thank you very much for your application. We appreciate it. So we have three simple questions, and the first one is, please tell us why you wish to serve on the Airport Commission.
I think serving on the Airport Commission would be an excellent opportunity to represent the interests of general aviation in the Verde Valley. And I think it would be an opportunity for me to apply my skills and experience in planning and operations for the benefit of the Cottonwood Airport.
Okay, great. And then can you give us some detail about your specific qualifications for the Airport Commission?
I'm an active pilot. I usually fly weekly out of the Cottonwood Airport. I am a client of Lenore Aircraft and rent airplanes weekly to fly around the Verde Valley. I am also the Young Eagle coordinator for the Experimental Aircraft Association. This is an international organization that has a program that promotes aviation to young people. We do flight rallies every spring and fall, and we provide free flights for children between the ages of 8 and 17. I coordinate all the rallies each spring and fall, and we also do one-off flights. So somebody has a kid that's having their 16th birthday and they want to go on an airplane ride. And so I arrange through the local aviation community, or myself, I'll fly them. And so we really expose the experience of aviation to young people through that program. I'm also a mentor to 2 student pilots that are on scholarship through our chapter. So I work with young people a lot in general aviation. And finally, I served as a technical advisor before I retired at both the state and federal level. I was a technical advisor to 3 different governors in 2 different states, and I also served in 2 I advise cabinet level people in presidential administrations on matters of national security.
Okay.
So I know how to advise and give 3 bullet points.
Okay, very good. And then last question is, what do you hope to accomplish during your appointment?
Well, I'd like to, I would hope to make value-added contributions to the update on the master plan for the airport. And otherwise, I would hope to promote, support, enhance safe operating practices at the Cottonwood Airport.
Okay, very good. And then, do you have any questions for us?
So could you tell me what you think the attributes of your ideal Airport Commission member would be?
That's a good question. Anyone want to take a stab at that? Well, we frame the questions around exactly that, just to find out what your qualifications are. Honestly, we're looking for someone who is willing to dedicate a lot of time to helping make our airport a better place for the community and beyond. So, you know, those are our ideal candidates. The Airport Commission we have our chair here in the room this evening. He's been there since its inception. They've done an awful lot of great work for us in promoting and making the airport a better place. We have a new manager as well here at the airport. And so there's just a lot of momentum there right now. So I think we're looking for somebody who is obviously a critical thinker, but also very motivated to help and serve, make this a better place. Did I miss anything? No? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, next up we have Robert Efros. And if I'm getting your names wrong, I apologize. Is Mr. Efros in the room this evening? Okay. We'll try to reach out to him and see if he's still interested then. Okay, great. And then we have William Hollier. Did I get your name right, sir?
Will Hollier.
Okay, great. Good evening. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for letting me be here, council members. Appreciate it.
We kind of got a sneak preview of what the questions are. They're the same.
All right.
First one up is, please tell us why you wish to serve on the Airport Commission.
The biggest reason, I just want to be a good advocate for young people and flying in the community. I came here about a year ago and was trying to learn how to fly locally here, and it was kind of difficult to get into renting airplanes and finding instructors, and that's been a lot easier in the past year since I got involved with that, and I just want to continue that. Also being a good advocate for the airport. It's a wonderful airport. I've been all over the world when I was in the Air Force, and I've flown in some fantastic places, but this is one of the nicest places in the country to fly. I really mean that, and I tell everybody that I meet that this is a great place to fly. I'd like to keep doing that.
Great. Okay. And what are your specific qualifications for the Airport Commission?
Well, I'm a 32-year Air Force veteran. I flew F-16s in the Air Force, a couple wars. I was also a surgeon. I've been to Afghanistan a couple times, so I've been all over the place and have flown as an instructor pilot with over 2,000 hours of flying as an instructor. I'm still an advocate for teaching young people how to fly airplanes and how to motivate those folks to enjoy flying airplanes and making it as fun as when I started learning when I was 15. So I think having that background of learning when I was young, from driving a fuel truck to being able to pay for flight lessons, I like to guide young folks into doing that, and having done it myself, I'd like to just keep doing that.
Okay. And then the last question is, what do you hope to accomplish during your appointment?
Biggest thing is really I'd like to ensure that we still have good general aviation flying abilities here without, making people upset with the noise issues. But more importantly, on the other side of the mountain at Embry-Riddle, I mean, they're bursting at the seams with young people who want to fly airplanes, and they're actually spilling over here because they want to fly here, and I think that's wonderful. Being able to keep giving them opportunities to have good airplanes that are safe, that are available, that are low noise, that are low fuel consumption. That's what we've been trying to do here with Cottonwood and the rentals that we have here, and I'd like to just keep doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. And then, do you have any questions for us?
I don't.
You don't? Okay. All right. Well, thanks for being here, Mr. Hollier. Appreciate it. So I believe Ms. Wooler covered it, but we're going to combine these scores with the scores that were generated through the blind matrix process, and then at a future date, we'll bring it back to make our appointments. So thanks to all of you who applied. All right. Okay, next on the agenda is, under unfinished business, is ordinance number 682, amending Title II, Chapter 2.04, Mayor of the Cottonwood Municipal Code by deleting Section F of Chapter 2.02.030 in its entirety and adding a new Section 2.02.030F. This is the second and final reading, and this was a sponsored item by Vice Mayor Matthews and Councilmember Henry. I don't know if you guys wanted to, if either one of you want to take a second just to introduce this item again.
I'll go ahead and do that. So again, this was just something we found a little break in the system on the special meeting July 19th, and we're just trying to fix that. Some of the feedback I got, people asking about it, it doesn't prevent the mayor from convening council in an emergency, either in a work session or a regular council session. It doesn't prevent him from getting feedback from the community, doesn't prevent him from getting feedback from council, and he can even poll council. This is a very, very narrow scope. All this does is that when the mayor is able to make an emergency proclamation, if he chooses of his own volition not to make that proclamation, which he's able to make, decides to bring it to council, and then asks them to actually take a formal vote on it, that he's obligated to that vote for 30 days. And that is that's the very narrowest instance in which that will come up. We may never see it again. So again, we've brought that up. It's just a small fix to a problem that's come up. And I don't know if anybody else has anything else to add to that.
Any other council members have anything to add?
Mr. Hodge, you look like you're ready to say something. I'm just a little confused here. Okay, so and by the way, I was on the phone when this was discussed, and it was terrible. I
yes.
missed every other word probably, okay? So, if we have an emergency situation, the mayor has the right to override a council decision, correct?
No. If the mayor chooses, let's just take the situation we were in. The mayor could have made a proclamation without convening council, without taking public input. It doesn't prevent the mayor from convening council to get their opinion, to get their feedback, and from getting public input. So the mayor has that ability in that narrow situation there to make an emergency proclamation unilaterally without council or anything. But he can still have us meet. He can still get our input. He can even poll us on what we want to do. We do it all the time in a work session. We give direction after discussing something. The only thing this does, if the mayor chooses not to take that decision upon himself, but asks the council to make that decision, that he's bound by that decision for 30 days or until the council decides that the situation is dire enough to meet again within that 30 days to possibly overturn council's decision. But for 30 days after asking the council to vote on it, he's going to be held to that decision for that period of time.
Can I ask a question of Mr. Horton? Okay, good. I didn't see you. Would you explain to me if the mayor has the ability to override a council decision in an emergency situation, yes or no?
Currently, what state law says is if authorized by the governing body, the mayor has emergency proclamation and order authority. The council in the city code legislated that. This proposed ordinance would modify that such that if there is a council action taken, it binds the mayor for 30 days. If the council has taken the action first. It doesn't preclude the mayor from acting, and the council doesn't have the authority now to override. It's only if the council acts first that the mayor is bound.
But currently, it doesn't read that way.
No, sir.
Okay. So what happens if this emergency continues past, into the 30 days? We're still in an emergency situation.
After that 30
days. You have to wait 30 days?
Now, after that 30 days, if council does not decide they need to meet sooner to reconsider, the mayor can go ahead and unilaterally make that proclamation on his own.
But it's 30 days has to pass.
If 30 days hasn't passed, he can petition council to get together and reconvene and possibly vote again and change that decision.
Okay. I'm just having a problem with
I get it.
What I see is, first of all, a situation where, and I'll say everybody got caught a little flat-footed, okay? But I have to congratulate the mayor on the fact that he came in here not only with a plan, with a backup plan, and the whole thing was focused on the health and safety of this community. I don't find that wrong.
Well, he had the ability to act anyway. I mean, this isn't really about that particular situation. This is about a procedure.
This.
This is about just a procedural item.
With it, you know.
In that if he's going to bring council together and ask them to actually take the time and vote on something, that he's bound to that decision on that issue for 30 days. That's all.
Okay. I have a problem with, we expect our mayor to lead. And now we're going to tie some strings around the mayor, whoever it is, not only today, but in the future. The mayor has to have some capacity to lead in this community.
And that option was there, yes.
Mayor, if I may, and Councilmember Jauregui, I agree with you. The mayor has to have that ability to lead. This is not taking away the ability to lead. It is just putting in some checks and balances if we convene as a council and there's an actual vote. There's nothing impeding his ability to issue a proclamation on his own. You know, I co-sponsored this because this seems like a break in the procedure. It's a forward-looking ordinance revision. I'm not trying to rewrite history, but I do think it's important to have some checks and balances in place if there is an actual vote on an issue. And I believe this is a very narrow revision to the ordinance. I think it's fair, and I also think that it does not impede, it allows for changed circumstances in the future as well moving forward, and that goes back to the 30 days. If there is changed circumstances, we need our mayor to be able to lead in changed circumstances. So I don't know if that addresses your question about the, you know, intent and or how this would be put into practice moving forward.
So how many times has the mayor in the past overridden a decision historically? This is the first time, as far as I know.
How many times has a mayor made an emergency proclamation in past history? I can't speak to either point. I don't have a good way to balance.
Yeah, it's probably not a good question because most of us weren't around
I mean, to my
here.
knowledge, I don't think this has been an issue before, and I don't believe this came up with any other municipality in the state of Arizona over this issue. It didn't go this way with anybody but Cottonwood.
Okay, thank you for your time.
All right, any other council members? No. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak on this ordinance this evening? If there are, there's forms in the back, yellow forms you could fill out to speak if you'd like to. And Deputy Clerk, did we receive anything? I don't think so. No. Okay. No. All right, very good. Yes, ma'am. If you could, you have to come up to the podium, and we'll limit you to 5 minutes. And if you could still fill out a form, we would appreciate it very much.
Okay. I want to go back to the point of...
Ma'am, if you could introduce yourself. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Dr. Ann Consorti. I'm a chiropractor in Cottonwood. I want to go back to the point where he said that when we make a decision based on the health and welfare of the community, and we had proposed, my husband and I, that it would be a great idea to have a health committee so that when we do have to make decisions, we can make them based on scientific research. And then everybody's backed, and I think that's a check and balance for you, in a sense. And that's really kind of all I wanted to bring up. So I like the idea, and I think that if we had some education and research behind some of our decisions, and we had that committee, and I think we kind of spoke and went to the Parks and Recreation, and I think that would fall under their department, and we would be willing to have that happen. That's all.
Okay. Thanks, Ms. Consorti. Appreciate it. All right.
Make a motion?
If you don't mind, I'll just say briefly.
Okay.
You know, my comments are the same as last time we discussed this during the first reading. I think my concern is that it will tie the hand of the mayor, whoever he or she may be in the future, to not seek input from its council, and as well not seek input from the public when considering matters of emergency, which is, you know, what I believe this is. So it's a concern of mine. I think I understand that there were hard feelings over this. I think this is, you know, I don't blame council for being, you know, upset with the way the meeting rolled out. And I don't blame the public for being upset with the way this meeting rolled out. I just think that I don't have any way of communicating with my council unless it's in public. So I have no real way of knowing how council feels about a particular issue unless we discuss that matter in public. And moreover, I don't have any way of knowing where council really stands on an issue unless we ask for a vote. And as I said last time, when we discussed this issue, generally, without asking for a vote, I wouldn't have known where a few of my colleagues stood on the issue. So again, it's really not going to affect, you know, how I move forward as mayor, because I think in the future I I will likely issue a proclamation. What bothers me about that, though, is I won't be able to seek input from my colleagues, and I won't be able to seek input in a public hearing where we can hear from the community and the public health officials in our area. And that is why I'm critical of this ordinance. Moreover, and this is just an observation, I think most folks that support this ordinance don't support the use, the mandate of masks, and those who are opposed to this ordinance tend to be those who support masks, which is just an interesting observation. Either way, no matter where you stand on the issue, I think that's really the wrong lens through which to view this ordinance. And this is, was enacted during a time of emergency, and I think that is also the wrong time to consider changing city code, limiting a mayor's authority in time of emergency when most agree we're in a time of emergency. So those are my comments, and I think that we are ready for a vote. So,
okay, I think we've addressed all of
Before we have a vote, I would like to just make sure there's a clear record that, again, this ordinance does not stop the Cottonwood City Mayor from actually having a public meeting on an issue without calling for a vote. This is exactly what we saw happen in neighboring jurisdictions such as Sedona. So your mayor, with this ordinance, can still convene a meeting and request input from his fellow council members and from the community. And I want to make sure that the record, and for all of those watching this at home, realize that this does not stop the mayor in any way, shape, or form from doing that.
And if I could, real quick, I heard from hundreds of citizens over this issue, and yes, many of them who oppose masks are in favor of this, but I also heard from many folks who were in favor of masks that are in favor of this ordinance as well, because they didn't feel that it should have happened the way that it did. So I just kind of want to put that out there too. I heard from the vast majority of people they were in favor of this ordinance.
And I don't think in any way, shape, or form it prohibits the mayor from meeting with us, discussing it, but we don't have to take a vote. You would certainly know have our opinion and how we feel about it just through the discussion. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't prohibit that.
All right. Are we ready then for roll call vote?
I think so.
Yep, okay. Mr. Deputy?
I'll make the motion.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I will move to approve Ordinance 682.
Second.
All right, so Vice Mayor made the motion. We have the Councilmember Henry seconded it, and then roll call vote, sir.
Councilmember Henry?
Yes.
Councilmember Hulse?
Yes.
Councilmember Haurgi?
No.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilden?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Matthews?
Yes.
Mayor Linsky?
No.
And motion carried.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And I just want to say now, before you read the ordinance by title only, we disagree on policy issues regularly up here. However, we are always united in doing the best that we can for Cottonwood, and this in no way, my criticism of this ordinance is not because of any way it will impact me individually. It is the way it will impact the office. So I don't take any of this personally. It doesn't impact my working relationship with the Vice Mayor or any of my other colleagues up here. We may disagree, but when the vote's cast, we move on and we work together, and that's exactly what you can expect from us moving forward. So with that, Deputy Clerk, please read ordinance number 682 by title only.
Ordinance number 682, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, amending Title II, Chapter 2.04, Mayor of the Cottonwood Municipal Code by deleting Section F of the Chapter 2.02.030 in its entirety and adding a new Section 2.02.030F. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, up next is consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. We have, 6 items tonight. I'm going to read each item out loud by title. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to have an item pulled, please indicate so. And if there's any council member that would like to have an item pulled, please indicate. Item 1 is liquor license application 013 Farm Winery submitted by Emil Mullen, agent for Cove Mesa Vineyard LLC, located at 741 Air Parkway, Unit 9. Item 2 is liquor license application 007 Beer and Wine Bar for Kevin A. Kramer, applicant for Pizza Hut, number 036996, located at 472 South Main Street. Item 3 is special event liquor license application submitted by Rudy Rodriguez, applicant for the City of Cottonwood, for the Walking on Main event scheduled for November 14, 2020. In Old Town, item 4, sponsor agreement with Arizona State Parks for Pinal and 4th Street Gateway Sign and Trail Improvements. Item 5, acceptance of CARES Act funding from the Arizona State Library. Item 6, extension of custodial services agreement with Melton and Sons. Is there an item that anyone would like to have pulled? If not, I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion. Councilmember Holst seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's approved. We move on then to new business. 4 items tonight. Item 1, request from the Verde Valley Homeless Coalition to waive the code review and conditional use permit modification fees. Evening.
Thank you, Mayor Linsky, members of the council. As you said, this is a fee waiver request from the Verde Valley Homeless Coalition. They currently operate at 654 North Main with a conditional use permit that was granted in January of this year. They have been working with staff to amend a couple of their stipulations that they have, mainly the hours of operation, and they are working through the code review board and a modification to their conditional use permit. The fees that they are requesting to waive is $100 for the code review board fee and $175 for the conditional use permit modification. This would be moving forward to the Planning Commission later on this month.
All right, very good. Any questions from council? No. I believe we have the executive director of the Homeless Coalition Board here. Do you have anything to add, sir? No. Okay. Do we have any questions for Mr. Martin?
No questions.
Any discussion?
No, I think they do. This is a very important service in our community, and personally, I would support the waiver of the application fee. It's a very small amount of revenue. So.
Okay.
It's our part we can do.
All right. I'll just fully disclose that I serve on the board of the Verde Valley Homeless Coalition. I don't get paid to do it, though it's very gratifying work. I just want to make sure that everyone understands there's not a conflict with my vote. And with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the request to waive the code review fee of $100 and the conditional use permit modification fee of $175 for the Verde Valley Homeless Coalition.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Henry made the motion and Councilmember Wilden seconded it. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Henry?
Yes.
Councilmember Hulse?
Yes.
Councilmember Hargy?
Yes.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilden?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Matthews?
Yes.
Mayor Linsky?
Yes.
And motion carried.
Okay, thank you. All right, next, item 2, special event liquor license application submitted by Rudy Rodriguez, applicant for the City of Cottonwood for an event scheduled for September 18th and 19th, 2020 at either the Old Town Activity Park or the Cottonwood Kids Park. Good evening.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I'm Rudy Rodriguez. I'm Deputy City Manager for the City of Cottonwood. Got an echo. Before you is a special event liquor license for September 18th and 19th. You may recall that's about the time frame for the TVR this year. It has been canceled, and we're looking to try to put on a new event in its place. We're looking for that would be a Friday and a Saturday. And as you can see in the council communication, it's an event that we would try to hold in both Old Town, the Old Town Activity Park, right behind this particular building, and over at the Cottonwood Kids Park. We've got current plans for this particular event. However, we know that things are changing day to day, but we wanted to ask for this particular license just in case the opportunity does arise that we can have this particular event. This would be both a community-sponsored, a joint event between the community and the City of Cottonwood, and then one day would be totally sponsored by the City of Cottonwood. if we're asking for both days, and depending on which day the city of Cottonwood would decide whether Friday or Saturday, we would forward a letter to the Arizona Liquor Board and basically ask them only for that day, not both. The other would be sponsored by the community. So, and I'll take any questions.
Mr. Mayor, if I can add a couple things. One of the reasons this isn't on the consent agenda is because we're making plans, like he said, for those dates. Right now, the answer would really be no. The governor has shut off any applications for special events for the liquor license. So we are doing this for timing so that if it does open up, we could get it in on time. And then no groups larger than 50 is currently allowed. Cities are allowed to waive that requirement. I would not be recommending it for this kind of event where it's a party, a band, and a beer garden at one of our locations. So in all honesty, the team, the community team and the staff are moving forward with the plans as we discussed probably, a couple months ago. But I'm a little uncomfortable continuing to plan. And I would actually like to put this off till the spring and wait and see what we can do in the spring, plan for that, do something bigger and better. Some of the bands, local bands even, aren't wanting to do groups yet. I'm just in an uncomfortable spot, and this was not a decision I wanted to make. So a couple things for council could do. You could approve this, and then we'll be back in 2 weeks with the actual plans. I've asked Jack to come forward with what the group recommends, and then you guys can approve or deny it at that time after a couple more weeks of work. If you decide not to approve this liquor license now, then I'll know to bring this back in the spring. But if you want to give it a couple more weeks to wait and see what the governor does, I can't imagine that in a month, September 17th, a month and 5 weeks, that we'll be allowed to have groups of a size that would be needed to be permitted for us to have this event in a park. So before the community, the committee, and the staff continue to do the work, I just wanted to make sure that where council stood on this particular fall event. We'll move forward. The committee is meeting. Again, we'll follow the direction, but I just wanted to make sure that I got some feedback from council on this actual liquor license. Again, if it's approved, we'll be back in a couple weeks with the actual plans. So either way, I'll either be back in 2 weeks or I'll be back in the late winter for a spring event.
All right. Council, any discussion on this?
I don't see where 2 weeks is going to make a difference between where we are now and in 2 weeks. So I would not be in favor of approving this at this point.
All right.
I agree. I know our numbers are a little bit better here than they were, but there's no guarantee that that's going to stay the same or continue. And if we bring a lot of people in for this event, then that could mess up our numbers. And we want to keep everybody safe. So I am very uncomfortable with that idea as well of having this event in September because it's so close. So I would not be in favor of this.
So if things are the way they are, where we have to provide a mask mandate for 30 days, extend it for 30 days. The mayor has shut down gyms and bars with certain liquor licenses and put restrictions on restaurants. I don't think we can even talk about providing a liquor license and bringing people together for a party in 6 weeks.
It was the governor that did that.
Yeah, the governor closed.
He's got a couple different names, I know.
Just for clarification, Mr. Mayor, the governor, Steve can update our city attorney if he wants to. There was a court decision today. I don't think it really changes anything, but we'll see what the governor is allowed to do moving forward. But it did not affect bars, to the best of my knowledge. It was just about gyms, the decision today.
Correct. A trial court decision in Maricopa County, and it was part of litigation involving gyms and fitness clubs.
Mm-hmm. The governor got pushed back a little.
Yep. Any other feedback?
I would agree. I would be concerned when Arizona is on the national news as one of the hot spots if we were to have an event in 6 weeks and we're still somewhere around that area of having a hot spot or coming down off of it or even off of it, and then all of a sudden Yavapai County, i.e. Cottonwood, blows up and we have a whole bunch of people in the hospital because of it, I feel very uncomfortable. I would agree that I think we're better off to push it back and see what happens with this situation. It's too unsettling at this point to try to plan anything, in my opinion.
And I think that was well said. I echo all of the health concerns and sentiments that have been expressed by my fellow council members. I do, though, really please let the committee know, the community committee, that their work time brainstorming is much appreciated, and also Parks and Rec, Mr. Teal, and your time as well. I know that the group was trying to balance the health concerns with the council's stated desire to support our local businesses without having good forecasting of the future numbers and things like that. So thank you to them, please.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Henry, I appreciate that. I think the groundwork they've done would be a great spring event. I think the planning they've done will be a good event whenever we can do it again. So I don't think it'll be in vain. I really think that the group talked about some local bands, some local events, supporting local businesses in their weekend stuff. So I think it'll pay off in the long run.
How about a victory celebration in the spring?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Nice.
All right, I think I'm in agreement with everyone. I think our efforts are better spent for a spring event. We appreciate all their work, but I think if we could get them to focus more on the spring, I think that'd be better. We'll all keep our fingers crossed for.
Just so the mayor and council know, and the city manager, the name of the event that we've been trying to plan is the Kicking It Local Cottonwood. So we've got a name.
Great. Let's kick it to the spring then.
I don't think everybody heard that, Rudy.
I didn't hear it.
It's called Kicking It Local.
Kicking it local. Bring your boots.
All right. Do you want a formal motion on this, or do you have what you need?
It's up to council. It can fail for lack of a motion.
Okay. All right. We'll see you in the spring.
That's fine. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Okay, next up is reclassification of the airport manager from part-time to full-time. Mr. Corbin. Oh, I'm so sorry, Ms. Wilk.
Mr. Mayor, we're going to tag team it.
Okay.
I was successful taking my mask off this time. That's positive. Good evening again. In January, Council approved the addition of a part-time airport manager. In March, the position was filled. The position so far has been successful. However, it's become clear that the work to be done at the airport to meet Council's goals really requires a full-time position. So in order to meet our set goals, it's recommended that we reclassify our part-time position to a full-time position. If the reclassification is approved, our position's hourly rate would remain the same. The changes would consist of increasing the number of hours worked from 19 hours a week to 40 hours a week and becoming exempt. It would also add the required Arizona State Retirement System participation for the number of hours worked, and changing from a part-time position to a full-time position would require us to offer our normal full-time benefit package as well. The total cost of this position with benefits, taxes, salary is $112,000 a year. The reclassification for this budget year, for the remainder of the budget year, would be $63,000 additional and $71,000 annually moving forward. The $63,000 this budget year would partially be funded from the $20,000 awarded to the airport from the CARES Act, and then the remaining $43,000 would be taken from the general fund money that was originally budgeted for transit. With that,
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'll add just a couple things. So for transparency purposes, I did make a commitment to council that I would be bringing this back once I had the funding. Unfortunately, I have not come up with the grant funding that we were hoping for yet, but we've learned a couple of things since hiring this part-time manager who focused solely on the airport. And that's that we have a need for a full-time airport manager. Just being on site alone, he's discovered many issues that would not be discovered by a part-time person or a person who had other duties and responsibilities. We've had a couple of safety issues in his short tenure here that he's had to respond to on the weekends, and then there will be long-term dealing with those over time. There's the master update for the airport master plan update. That is a part-time job just taking care of that. We hope to finish that this year so that we can be eligible for grant revenue the following year. Most of the grant money this year went towards that study. And so there's not a lot of extra FAA money right now to use for that. The other thing is we're working with our tenants in the fence, outside the fence, updating leases. He is in the middle of working on a contract to add hangars to the airport at no cost to the city, in actuality bringing in new revenue once that happens to the airport. I believe that economic development of the airport, or the airport being used as an economic driver for our community, is a goal of this council, and we will do that regardless of today's decision. It would be easier to do with a full-time person up there for the long haul. Again, we'll continue to implement the priorities of council, whether it's part-time or full-time. But I fully believe that this position needs to be full-time. And the more I work with Mark and the more I learn about what is and isn't happening at the airport, the more convinced I am that we've undermanaged that airport for a long time. You know, the predecessors, we tried to do it with a part-time person who had responsibilities and no expertise, and they did a great job given the skill set and the tools that they had. But I think it's time that we up the game and move on. We have the resources to do it this year without affecting any other department or any other budget. And so I'm asking council to approve that, and I'll answer any questions you guys have about the position.
Any questions for Mr. Corbin?
I have a comment.
Sure.
I had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Corbin and Mark last month, I believe it was. Had a nice visit with him. He explained a lot of things that he had discovered at the airport, ways that he could bring more money into the city on airport properties, things that the city had been missing as far as fees that should have been being collected. I concur with Mr. Corbin that Mark has done an excellent job. He's well worth full-time, and I believe will benefit very highly, both in improvements of the airport and management of the airport and the airport properties. There are properties out there I wasn't even aware of belong to the airport that he brought up, and that we should have been collecting fees or taxes. I'm not sure which would be appropriate, but we've been missing a lot of income from our airport properties because we just didn't know about them. So he's an asset.
Very good. Any other comments from council?
Just the same thing. When I met with him, I mean, I was just blown away. The guy's a real professional. I have no doubt that he's going to make his own income, and he's going to bring us a lot of revenue. And that, yeah, had we had somebody like this on years ago, we'd have been way further ahead than where we are now. So I'm all for it.
See a couple heads nodding. I'll say, echo the comments the Vice Mayor and Councilmember Holst said. I have met with him as well. I know that Mr. Corbin was a little nervous bringing this forward to council because obviously this council's really held the line on what's spent is what's in the budget. Now, we've worked in a lot of flexibility in this year's budget, and I think the reason is we're dealing with some pretty uncertain times, hence the flexibility. I think this is a really important position that will help us strategically align ourselves and our economy to recover quickly, you know, once we can get beyond COVID in our community and in our nation. So I think this is a good investment in our economy for recovery. I believe that very much, and I think Mr. Williams is the person to get us there. So though we didn't budget for a full-time position, I think this is one of those instances where the flexibility of our budget we should really consider and allow for this.
Ready for a motion?
Yes, sir.
I move to reclassify the part-time airport manager position to a full-time position.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Holst made the motion, Vice Mayor seconded it. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Henry?
Yes.
Councilmember Holst?
Yes.
Councilmember Hargy?
Yes.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilden?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Matthews?
Yes.
Mayor Linsky?
Yes.
And motion carried.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, last on the agenda tonight for discussion is discussion, consideration, and possible legal action to authorize a proposed donation to or exchange with the Cottonwood Oak Creek School District for the purchase of military-grade tents for use as outdoor classrooms.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. King is here, so I'll invite him up, but I'll go ahead and give a little background. He approached the city about some help with purchasing some tents for some outdoor classrooms, as you saw in there. So we've gone through it, and we have your reserves, your contingency reserves that we could spend the money on. But the interesting thing, the thing that actually makes this easier and solves several problems is that we are having a separate meeting on our cemetery, and if you know anything about our cemetery, there are some land issues, ownership issues. Let's just say there are issues. One of them, believe it or not, is that the school district actually owns land inside of our cemetery. We have not been able to They can't give it to us. It's a gift clause issue. So the school district, they would normally not really have a lot of need for land inside of a cemetery, but they can't give it to us. And so this would allow us to buy it from them, and they would be allowed to use that money for the purchase of tents, or at this point, for whatever they deem appropriate. And so I called Mr. King, and he was okay with this turn of events. So, but I would ask if he could just take a minute and talk about his plan, because it's very interesting. And just so you know, I did hear about it on the news in Arkansas this weekend, that there were some schools out there talking about the same program.
We're 4 weeks ahead, though.
Yes.
Planning. Yeah, it's not every day that you find out that you own a piece of a cemetery, and my grandfolks are buried over there, not in the same plot. I guess we're on 0.18 of an acre over in the old Cottonwood Cemetery, which is always very interesting. A couple things. First of all, having these council meetings right across the street from Colt Grill when they're smoking makes it very hungry, essentially, as I haven't eaten. And the second thing is I've not been in this building since I was a little tiny kid, and so it's kind of a weird experience that I'm experiencing right now, deja vu. And our board, I just came from a school board meeting, and they wanted me to extend their just everything to them, their support for all you and what you do here. So I know it's as all of us are, we are facing interesting and challenging times moving forward. So in my role as the superintendent of Cottonwood Oak Creek School District, the most perplexing issue, certainly of my career, I think probably of any superintendent's career, is in reopening our schools safely. And I will say that I have been consumed by COVID-19 over the last 4.5, 5 months. And as we try to figure this out as a team with our school district and returning children to school safely, we understand the imperative, we understand the importance of getting children back onto our campuses, online learning, even the best online learning. We've done a lot over the summer, by the way, in getting ready, and we are opening tomorrow for online learning. But even the best online learning does not meet the needs of children, as I'm sure Mr. Holst can attest to as well with his experience in the classroom. We have to get these children back as quickly and as safely as possible. And we're going to be very cautious, we're going to be very slow, we're going to have a phased-in approach to bringing children back. We're going to start with our littlest ones, and we are going to grow back into our classrooms gradually, slowly, and safely. So to meet that end, I'm a student of history, and I absolutely, that is my thing, is history. I was trained to be a history teacher, never got to be a history teacher. Maybe someday I can go back and be one, maybe my third career as we go forward. But I was starting to look at some similar situations that we've seen in the past in our nation's history, and looking at what we did during the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 to 1920. And as I was doing this research, I found very, very little information on the role of schools and how schools operated during this time period. But there was a brief reference in my research to the tuberculosis outbreak started about 1900 and lasted about 1935. And if you know anything about tuberculosis, it was rampant. It was throughout our entire world. And there was a reaction to that, and a little personal history. My grandfather on my mother's side was orphaned because of tuberculosis, and my grandmother, the reason I'm in Cottonwood today is because my grandmother came here in the 1940s with my grandfather to take the cure, as they used to say, because she had tuberculosis herself. She only lived to 87 years old, so there's something to be said for the cure. But anyway, the interesting thing that they did as a reaction, as a response to the tubercular outbreak that was extended, was a concept that began in Germany and came across the Atlantic Ocean early 1900s, and they were called open-air classrooms. And I ordered a book. It was published in 1907. I had to get it specially published and done up in England, and it finally arrived about a week ago. But it gave us the perspective of what we're looking at in returning children to school for those open-air school concepts. And all I do is I read and I watch and I listen to information about COVID. And from what I'm reading is the transmission of COVID is up to 20 times less in outdoor environments than it is in indoor environments. I'm also reading about many things about it being transmitted through HVAC systems. And our district itself, about 7 years ago, through a bond, just recently upgraded all of our HVAC systems, and to upgrade those systems again would be cost prohibitive. So the open-air classroom has kind of taken roots. And at the same time as I was doing this research, I was watching that show MASH. I don't know if you ever recall that show MASH, and looking at those tents that they had. I said, well, why not? So I started looking at where we can find these surplus tents. We got a couple suppliers, one in North Carolina, one in Los Angeles. And we were working closely with the county, and I don't know if you know who Stan Goligoski is, but he is Tim Carter's #1 with the county ESA, Education Service Agency. And Stan Goligoski himself did 4 tours in Afghanistan and Iraq, and I just wanted his opinion. He's a friend of mine. He's a remarkable human being. If you don't know who he is, you should, because I call him Smiling Stan, and Captain America, 6'6", combat infantry, decorated, retired as a major, homegrown in Prescott. And I asked him his opinion on what he thought about the safety of these tents. He said, Steve, he says, I spent blizzards in the mountains of Afghanistan, those things. They're not going anywhere once you get them down. It's okay. Well, that's promising. You know, I like to hear those things. So a little bit more research and finding where they are at. And I asked him what he could do in the county. So he did some research, and the first idea was to go to the National Guard and the reserves and to see if they would help a brother out, so to speak, and get us moving on that. And we found there was zero interest on the part of our National Guards and reserves to help us out in that area. So he came back to me and says, well, maybe we can find some funds through the County Emergency Management Planning Agency. Well, they're still waiting on their DEMA funds, and we've applied for DEMA funds as well for a lot of other things that we're going to need within our school district to help educate our kids. So that's in the process. And I said, well, I think that once people learn about this, maybe that might blow up, so we better order our tents. So I've got 12 tents on the way right now, six olive drab and 6 tan, desert tan, and we'll take delivery of those hopefully on Thursday. We're planning on putting in 20 kids, 2 classrooms. So these tents are large. If you know anything about them, I'm sure you do, Mr. Hulse, they are GP tents, general purpose tents, large, 52 by 18. We can fit 2 classrooms in there with appropriate physical spacing, keep these kids outside. And the benefit, all the research that shows the benefits of outdoor education during this time period that I mentioned before, during tuberculosis crisis, shows a dramatic increase in student health, well-being, vitamin D, sunshine, fresh air, all that stuff is good for kids. And I believe that anyway. I think that once this nonsense and this madness is over with COVID, it's just going to be part of what we do as Cottonwood Oak Creek School District. I was in a meeting with the newspapers about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago now. They seem to all run together anymore. And I'd received an email out of the blue from a parent at one of our schools, and said she and her husband own a local event company, Verve. And they had this idea of maybe doing some outdoor classrooms. She didn't know what we were planning on. This is new. So it's one of those serendipitous, and I don't know if you want to call it, you can call it what you want to call it, I guess. But it was, so I handed my phone to Trish and showed her the email. I said, make an appointment with her today. I'd like to go out and visit her. So I went out and visited the Gornicks, Phil and Krista. And they showed me around their facility, and we talked. They said, I can't believe this is the case. I showed them the pictures of the tents that we'd already ordered and the things that we had done to prepare for this outdoor classroom concept. And she says, how can we help? So the following, they took me around their warehouse full of tent staking supplies, giant, everything you could possibly need to set these tents up safely, and they offered their help in drawing up the site plan. So the site surveys have been done at all of our campuses, and those are being drawn up. I received the preliminary sketches today, as a matter of fact, to look at how we're going to site those, because you got to look at drainage, you got to look at safety. I met with Rick Contreras, the fire department, to see what they can do as far as how to make sure that we're safe. I'm probably going to have a conversation with Parks or with your building department. I don't know. I had contacted and met with Randy Garrison today, County Supervisor Garrison today, and they said, well, what do you need help with? I said, well, when they go up, we're going to need help, community help with that, but I'm also going to need a blue stake, because the size of these stakes that we're going to be driving into the ground are about this long, and we've got fiber lines and gas lines and water lines and electric lines and telephone lines and God knows what else is buried underneath our schools. So we're making progress on it. I don't want to say it's a definitive yet. I've been kind of keeping it secret. I don't want to say secret, but a little bit under the radar, because I don't like to promise too much and not being able to deliver. But we are moving forward with it. And the process and the strategy that we're taking as a school district with our phased-in approach, when we're allowed to bring children back to school, is we're going to start slowly, and we're going to grow back into our classrooms. We're going to start outside, and we're going to gradually grow and increase our capacity to serve. And everything that we're doing as a school district is framing things along the lines of capacity. What do we have capacity staff-wise? What do we have capacity space-wise? What do you have capacity financial-wise? And what do you have capacity legal-wise? Right now, we do not have the legal capacity to serve children in the school, with the exception of preschool, which will open tomorrow on a limited basis within our district. And until the 17th, as it stands now, we don't have a capacity to serve any other children K through 8 within our school district in live education. That could change. We're anticipating those metrics to be released by the Arizona Department of Health Services on Friday, per the governor's order, and that may guide us in what we do. But regardless of what we do, the plan is to get children back as quickly as possible. So I invited the mayor out a Monday and a half ago, maybe just last Monday. Like I said, it's all running together, and I wasn't looking for anything. I was just wanted to run this idea past him. And he says, well, how can we help? And 10 minutes later, a call from Mr. Corbin over here. And 2 days later, he brings up the subject of the cemetery. So I said, well, that's intriguing. Let's talk cemetery stuff. So I had to do some research. So I contacted our attorney, who thought that was a very intriguing idea, never heard of such a thing, did some research, says, yeah, it's possible. We don't even need to go to community vote for that if it's a fair trade. And so the next step was working with some appraisers. I reached out to Dan Mabry, and I said, hey, here's he goes, I never heard anything like that, Steve. What is that all about? I said, I don't know either, but we own cemetery land, and it's not doing us much good. But I will say that if you guys have been selling plots to that for all those years, I'd be interested to know how much revenues that cemetery's been taking in. So, and don't charge me for there's interest and all those other things attached to it as well. But anyway, so the attorney said it is possible for us to do that. It's fairly simple, but we're going to have to determine fair market value. Now, Dan Mabry said, he put me in contact with a fellow named Glenn Straub, who I've been speaking to the last couple of days, who's an appraiser. He didn't know anything about cemetery appraisal either, but he put me in contact with somebody else who did. He'll be getting back to me, he said, tomorrow, to find out exactly how much that's worth. And so we'll have an idea, because we do have to go in with eyes wide open. I also reached out to Tim Carter, County Superintendent of Education for Yavapai County, and I said, hey, Tim, have you heard of anything? He said, you know, it's amazingly common, these types of things. When they put in the gym at Prescott High School all those years ago, probably in the 1970s, the big dome thing, you might be familiar with it. They had to move 700 graves out of the old cemetery, the old Pioneer Cemetery, to make room for it, because this ownership. And it's believed, and someday, like I said, I love history, someday I'm going to research why that is. Mr. Garrison says it was his family that was responsible for that way back when, and I believe him, but I believe it could also date back to territorial days. But how do we own 0.18 of an acre in the cemetery, and how do you transfer that? And nobody knows how to evaluate cemeteries either. So that's where we're at. And I know I talk kind of fast, but to see the bigger picture, I'm looking for all the help that we can get, because the importance of getting these children back to school and learning, and not just the learning piece, but all those other side benefits that go to school, the compassion, the love, the food even, that some of these kids are in dire need of in many cases. Our community is hurting, our families are hurting, our children are hurting, and school is the safest place for them. So it's a very important mission that we have, and I think everyone can agree to that. And I'm looking for whatever help that we can give, and whether it's a trade, or whether it's just, hey, we really like what you're doing here, Stephen, we want to give you a bunch of money for some military grade tents, I'll take whatever I can get. So anybody have any questions for me, or concerns,
any questions
comments?
For Superintendent King?
Yeah, I have one.
Sure.
Mr. King, is $16,000 enough to buy 8 tents?
So the great question. These tents are 18 by 52, like I said, and with shipping. And shipping is expensive because these weigh a bunch. And one of the things we're looking at considering is just sending our own drivers out there with U-Hauls. And we might be sending somebody back to, I'm hoping I get to go back to North Carolina and pick these tents up and rent a U-Haul. But they're a total cost of $2,000 a piece with shipping.
With shipping?
With shipping.
Okay.
So ideally, I would like to get as many as I can. My dream, perhaps, if this, and I do believe that this will take off. I am walking on faith in many ways, I know. But I do believe that this is a viable concept. I think it's something that I think will be well received in the community. And I think about a little kindergartner, because we're going to start with the littlest ones, because these kindergartners, they can't do online learning. What good is online learning for a kindergartner? That's not what kindergarten's supposed to be about. But you think about when they get down the road and they get a little older, and how excited they're going to think of, I spent my kindergarten year in these Army tents, and we're going to call them camps. These are camps. We're going to have camps in each campus. So camp at CES, it's going to be Camp Warrior. It's going to be named after their mascot. Camp Warrior, Camp Lobo at CCS, Camp Ocelot at MVP, Camp Falcon at DDB, and Camp Rowdy, which is the nickname of their Roadrunner mascot out at Oak Creek School. And I think that it's going to be, like I said, well received in our community. I think we have a naturally perfect climate for this. It's hot out. I was outside today. It's hot, but you know what? You get in the shade, and kids don't care how hot it is. Adults do. That's another concern. But I think with our climate year-round, this is a viable concept moving forward as we transition back into our classrooms. I don't know if I answered your question. So 16,000 would get us 8 tents, and that'll get us up to 20, and that'll be a good start, I think.
Mr. Mayor, and Councilmember Holst, if I can just clarify, he threw it in the very end there. He originally asked for 20 tents, which would be about $40,000. 8 is a number we thought I could easily recommend, but he originally asked for 20. You have $63,000 in your reserves. It is only the second month of the year, but it is there. So.
And again, there are still many details that need to be worked out on this. This is not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination. And Mr. Corbin and I were debating whether I should come to the council now or later. And I understand that level of uncertainty. I wish I had more certainty in this world today, but I wanted to get it out there, and I wanted to see what you all thought about that, and maybe that there's something we can do. And if there's not, that's okay too. We're going to go ahead and find a way to do it, like I said, some way, because it's that important. But it's the more the better, I think, is the key phrase. And I'll take whatever I can get, and I'll do it gratefully, and I'll have much gratitude for all of you.
Vice Mayor.
Does this cemetery land come with any residents?
With any what?
Residents?
I don't know.
I think they're called decedents.
Decedents, yes.
Okay, so it is occupied.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Amanda, are there any plots in that .18? Yes, it does come with visitors, permanent visitors.
But as far as maintenance goes, it's already being taken care of anyway.
It's ours. I mean, it's ours. It's ours. And so, to Mr. King's point, really what I'm hoping from council tonight is permission to spend a certain amount of dollars, $18,000. Whether we can do the legal trade of the land. That was just an easy way for us, but there are some lawyers that have to make some decisions on that. Or whether it is helping in the pandemic. I think this is clearly one of those ways. Normally, city government doesn't get that involved in the running and then the helping of local school districts. But this is one of those things that I fully believe in helps our economy, helps our community, and helps our kids. So I think, and Steve can give you a better legal opinion, but I think it's well within what the city can do in helping making sure that our parents can go back to work and our kids can go to school. So I'd like to make sure that whatever you guys authorize today, if you so choose, is flexible in what we end up with. We didn't want to wait 2 more weeks and him miss the boat of being able to obtain or order these tents. But we do have some more. We will need to meet with the building official, I was reminded today. But he's met with Rick. He's well on his way. We feel this is a no-brainer, at least from my point.
All right. Any other thoughts from council?
I have a comment.
Sure.
I just, Mr. King, I want to thank you for coming up with such a creative solution to try to get the kids back to school. My 5-year-old granddaughter is going to start kindergarten online in Phoenix, so I really wish she was going to be up here. And we kind of have an idea of what that's going to look like, but it just breaks my heart a little bit that she's going to miss out on that first school experience of being in person. And I think that these are extraordinary times. Maybe cities don't usually help out in education, but in such extraordinary times, I think it's worth talking about.
And can I speak just briefly to our timeline? Our timeline for reopening, however that's going to look, is going to be much determined by what we see on Friday. And we're also monitoring those metrics and everything else. I don't know. I want to say that we're going to open, and we are going to open as soon as possible, but there's a lot of as they say, you got this map go from point A to point B, and you show, oh, it's a straight line, but there's a lot of washes, ravines, and rocks in between, and canyons. So I wish I could give a definitive answer on when that date is going to be. I wish it was tomorrow, to be honest with you, but that's where we're at.
Council, other comments?
I would agree, whether it's 16,000, 18,000, or whatever, I could see us spending that now. If we need to approve more later, we can come back and see if it is effective, if it has worked. So we don't have to dole out $40,000 immediately.
I do like the idea.
Staffing it as well. You brought up considerations. I'm going to get staff in there. And the staff I've talked to, and I've talked to quite a few families just broaching the idea, and every single one of them, without exception, is excited about it. They see it as a viable solution, and every single staff member I have. Because I do have many staff members. We did a statistical analysis of the average age of our staff members. And fully a third of them over the age of 50. Many of them have comorbidities, and I worry about their health as well. If we can mitigate that, it will never completely erase the danger, but if we can mitigate it to the best of our ability, I think it's a viable option.
Vice Mayor?
I like the idea of the purchasing the land to help fund that, and it works out for everybody. But we don't have any idea what that appraisal might.
What was that?
Come in at. The appraisal, I like the idea of the land, buying the land to help fund that. I think it's perfect for everybody. But we do need the appraisal, I believe, to...
I'll let Steve add if he wants. The problem is, and Mr. King alluded to this, nobody knows how to appraise a land that has bodies in it in a cemetery that can't be used for anything else. And so most appraisals use commercial property, which is going to skyrocket that price. That would not make any sense. So for me, right, wouldn't make any sense for me. It wouldn't be a fair market value. So the attorneys and the appraisers will have to come to some agreement on what that is. And what we really have to get to is that neither one is gifting the other. Right. Is really our goal.
So for procedural purposes, then you can't let it go for less than its appraised value. Is that right, Steve?
Not necessarily. Am I the Steve?
Well, I'm
Steve. Okay.
He's
which Steve?
So is that right? I mean, basically.
All right. I'll make a couple of points if I may. A gift clause analysis would say that a public entity cannot give away something of value without there being, or they can't actually spend money, in our case, without there being a public purpose and fair return. The analysis that I went through with Ron, and this is very interesting, he kind of reminds me of Blue Man Group because I just see a blue screen and the hands when I look over and hear him talking. It's all very unusual times. When Ron and I talked about this, there is some case law in Arizona about fees being charged, and there was some litigation involving home builders that was easily distinguished from a situation like this. As Ron said, there is public purpose to the community that the city serves, that the city is obliged to serve in having kids back at school, in having the parents of kids who get to go to school back at work. The council can find. This isn't us making that determination. This is you, in my view, being able to permissibly find that there is a public purpose to spending money to aid the school district to get kids back to school. In terms of the exchange, it just so happened during a different conversation that we realized that there was this other thing hanging out there, and we are trying to resolve in real time in its many forms some of the issues we have up at the cemetery. So this seemed like a real good thing. The last thing I'll mention is, since the question's on the table, I can't, I would have waited, but since the question's on the table, I don't feel it's appropriate to let it go unanswered with whatever that would imply. There is an appraisal out there. We actually commissioned an appraisal. I looked at it today. It runs 160-some pages for all sorts of property up at the cemetery. One of the parcels is this. I will disclose what that number is if the council directs me to. I will not do that if the council doesn't direct me to, but just let it be known that when we got that appraisal, we initially were very shocked, and we don't think we think the appraisal needs revisiting, but there is a certified licensed appraiser who gave us a number on that 0.1 acre parcel. As the council will recall, in a different context, we had the same appraiser come with a number for some public right-of-way. We have all sorts of title issues down here. And we reached back out to the appraiser with some different facts, or at least with our impressions of the facts that underlied his value conclusion, and he agreed to revise his appraisal, and it was revised substantially downward. We haven't had that conversation with the appraiser over this appraisal. That said, we have an appraisal. We also have the ability of and I'm winding down, I'm sorry. Each public entity, the district governing board and the council, get to make a determination over what fair value in an exchange situation is, apart from the public purpose that the council may find in giving the money. It's why you have, it's very unusual, you know, alternative motions in your packet, because it depends upon which direction you want to go. But what the courts up to the state Supreme Court has said is, when values being determined for the purpose of fair return under a gift clause analysis, $100 million for 100 parking spaces is excessive. That was the City North case, but we're well short of that, and this kind of exchange is well within the discretion of both governing bodies to determine is fair.
Our attorney said the same.
All right. We're going to have to silence the two Steves if we're going to make any kind of a decision tonight. So,
I don't see that. It's a pretty useless piece of land being appraising more than $16,000. I think that'd be very generous. I have no problem for this purpose paying $16,000 for that land. So,
all right. I just want to say I would be comfortable going up to 32 if we could work out an exchange, as well as provide an additional 16. I think it would help get the schools open in a way that's safe for our students and our community members. Again, getting back to the economic development perspective, I think it starts exactly where your school starts, which is, you know, pre-K. So I would be comfortable going up to that amount if
going up to 32,000.
Up to 32.
I would agree with that.
I think it's more efficient to do an up to and ask our city manager to exercise his good discretion for something like this that I think we can all agree is important, you know, trying to make sure we get our kids safely in the classroom, whatever that classroom looks like. So I would support that as well.
So we'd authorize potentially just to give the manager discretion to spend up to 32. Is that what you suggest?
I think that would be, okay. I'd be in favor of that.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I'll just add that amount would allow the city manager to get this done without, in my view, there needing to be another appraisal or a revisitation of the appraisal.
Okay.
I will say our board president, I've not discussed this with our whole total board, they're informed of the situation, but our board president is he said it ruins his dream of having the board president part of the cemetery that he's going to put in. He's got a sense of humor, but he is very supportive of that because really you hit it in the head. What good is it to us? it's not. And if it straightens your books out somehow and we can do you a favor, you can thank me later, Mr. Corbin, on that, but I am very appreciative.
All right. And I just want to say, too, that, again, at the very beginning of the pandemic, when we realized it was at our threshold, and there was a big call for PPE, everyone needed PPE. That's right. Superintendent King and your district came forward in a big way and gave all your PPE to the community. And it just goes to show that you are a community school, and I really do appreciate that very much. Much different than what happened on the other side of the mountain. I'm not saying that they didn't do the right thing on the other side of the mountain. I'm not casting stones or anything, but here in the Verde Valley, I think we have a very special community, and we do help one another out. So thank you for that.
Mr. Mayor, and to finish your sentence, they haven't been repaid.
Right.
Actually, can I take that back?
Yes, I would love to hear
healthcare on just Wednesday of last week, and they were interested in prioritizing the children of first responders to get back into whatever we can get back into. And I said, okay, I listened. They said, well, here's what I could use. I'm out of PPE and I can't get any, because I will say we've had some issues with other governmental agencies as far as coming through with the things that we've been promised. And with Ron Haas, I mentioned that to him, and 2 hours later he says, go on down to the loading dock at VVMC. And he had 5 cases, and we're in great shape now. So good. Yeah, that has changed since we've last talked.
I'm very glad to hear that. I'll give Ron a call. That I appreciate him stepping up.
I also asked him if he would buy any tents for us, because that was my thing. And he says he doesn't know about the hospital, but he said he would kick in. So remind him of that offer as well, for one anyway. So, and I will be, if this does move forward, and again, it's not definitive yet, but if it does move forward, I will be moving my office outside into tents as well. So I'm actually looking forward to that, especially in late September as opposed to middle of August.
All right. I believe we're ready for a motion then?
Yep. I'll make a motion.
Okay. Great.
I move to donate up to $32,000 to the Cottonwood Oak Creek School District for the purchase of 16 large military-grade tents to be used as outdoor classrooms.
All right. I'll second that. So Councilmember Holst made the motion. Mayor seconded it. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Mayor, can I interrupt for clarification from our city attorney? Mr. Horton, do they need to say anything about the land exchange?
Yeah, so the way the motion was just made is it's the donation as the public purpose. If you're authorizing the city manager to negotiate the resolution of the cemetery land issue, that would be the motion below that, underneath the underlined language in your packet.
So it'd be 2 motions or just 1 motion?
Just the one. It would be either or. So if you want to authorize the transaction we've been discussing, it would be the second motion in your packet. Well, unless you're authorizing the donation and telling us to negotiate something else to resolve the cemetery land.
But we do have a motion and a second. So if that was not the intent of our motion, or how should we proceed?
I think a superseding motion.
Or an amendment? Okay.
Amend the motion? Or proceed, did you say?
No. We would need to start over.
Start over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would that be an amendment? An amended motion?
When we get into parliamentary procedures, we actually wrote the code so that we generally follow Robert's rules, but we're not strictly bound by them. So if the later motion is going to supersede the earlier one, if there's another motion that's placed on the table and seconded and voted on, that will be the legal action you took.
Okay, so are we going to use this move to authorize the direct staff to negotiate and complete purchase of certain parcel of real property owned by Cottonwood Oak Creek School District and located within the Cottonwood Cemetery for up to $32,000?
I think that would be the staff recommendation, but it is council's prerogative.
Second.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Holst and a second by Councilmember Henry. And if we could have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Henry?
Yes.
Councilmember Hulse?
Yes.
Councilmember Hargy?
Yes.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilden?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Matthews?
Yes.
Mayor Linsky?
Yes.
And motion carried.
All right, very good. Thank you, sir.
Very much.
Thank you.
Well, tomorrow, please investment.
Thank you. All right, I would move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Holst seconded it. All in favor? Aye. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Yes, it was.